They didn't forget my birthday. That would have been easier to understand. Instead, they planned something small. Dinner at home. A cake my mother said she'd order herself. A few relatives invited. Not many, just enough to make it feel like it mattered. 18 isn't a huge milestone for everyone, but it was for me. Not because of the number, because it felt like a line. Something that marked a shift. A point where I might finally be seen a little differently. I didn't say that out loud. I've never been the one who asks for things directly. By late afternoon, everything was set. The house looked the same as it always did, but there was a subtle difference: plates arranged more carefully, chairs adjusted, my mother moving through the kitchen with a kind of focused energy. For once, nothing was being rearranged around my sister. That's what I noticed most. It didn't last. The shift started small. A raised voice upstairs, a door closing harder than usual. My mother paused mid-step, listening. Then it escalated. I didn't go up. I didn't need to. I already knew how it would unfold. My sister had a way of turning moments into something else, redirecting attention without needing to explain why. Sometimes it made sense. Most of the time it just happened. My father went upstairs first, then my mother. The house quieted for a few minutes, like everything was holding its breath. When they came back down, their expressions were already decided. "We're going to keep things low-key tonight," my mother said. That was the first version. A few minutes later, it changed. "Let's just cancel for today." No one asked me what I thought. No one framed it as a question. It was presented the same way it always was, as the most reasonable option. "She's not in a good place right now," my father added, like that explained everything. It did. It always did. I nodded once. Not because I agreed, but because I understood the pattern. There was a brief moment where I thought about saying something. Not arguing, just asking why it always landed this way, but I didn't. Because I already knew the answer. Dinner still happened, just without any acknowledgement of why it had been planned in the first place. The cake stayed in the box. No one mentioned it. We ate like it was any other night. That was the part that stayed with me. Not the cancellation, but how quickly it disappeared, like it had never been important enough to disrupt anything. I went to my room afterward and sat there for a while. Not upset in the way people expect, no sharp emotions. Just a quiet kind of clarity settling in. This wasn't new, it was just complete. I started packing that night. Not everything, just the things I knew I'd need. A bag under the bed. A few clothes folded carefully. Documents I kept in a drawer. I didn't rush. There was no urgency, just a steady process of deciding what mattered enough to take. Over the next few days I moved more things out, small enough that no one noticed. A jacket here. A pair of shoes gone from the corner. The house didn't react. It never does to small changes. I found a place through a friend. Nothing permanent, just somewhere I could land without explanation. By the end of the week, I was ready. I didn't leave a note. Didn't say goodbye. I waited until the house was quiet, late enough that routines had settled, early enough that no one would wake. I picked up my bag, walked through the hallway, and paused for a second near the kitchen. The cake box was still there, unopened. I looked at it, then turned away. I didn't feel angry, just finished. They noticed the next morning. Not immediately, from what I heard later. It took a few hours before absence turned into concern. Calls came in around midday. I didn't answer the first few. When I finally did, my mother's voice wasn't panicked, it was confused. "Where are you?" "I moved out," I said. A pause. "You could have told us." I thought about that. About all the times decisions had been made without asking me. Then I answered evenly. "I think you would have decided the same thing anyway." She didn't respond to that directly. Instead, she said, "You're overreacting." That sounded familiar. "I don't think I am," I said. We didn't argue. There wasn't anything left to argue about. Life on my own wasn't easy. It wasn't supposed to be. But it was clear. If something didn't get done, I knew why. If something mattered, I decided it did. There wasn't a shifting center I had to adjust around. Just space. I heard about things at home through bits of conversation later. Nothing dramatic. No collapse. Just friction. More arguments, longer ones. My sister's moods didn't settle as quickly without someone stepping aside. My parents didn't have the same way of smoothing things over. Small things took more effort. That's what changed. Not everything. Just enough. They called less over time, not because they didn't care, because they didn't quite know how to place me anymore. I wasn't part of the system that had worked before, and they hadn't figured out a new one yet. I turned 18 without a celebration, but I marked it anyway, not with a party, with a decision I didn't undo. And for the first time, it felt like something had actually started, not because they made space for me, but because I finally did.